Shalom. This week's Torah portion in the land of Israel is Parashat Behalotcha, while the portion of Naso will be read in the diaspora. There are so many intriguing, amazing, and deep lessons in these two Torah portions. Taken together, they spread out before us an awesome panorama of this very special generation, the generation known as the generation of knowledge, the generation of the desert. And we see their as yet evolving relationship with God and the challenges they face as they prepare to enter into the land, which at this point is still on schedule, as their entrance doesn't get postponed until the terrible episode of the spy's evil speech against the land, which takes place in Parashat Shalach. So in Parashat Naso, we have more about the responsibilities of the Levitical families and the Sotah, the suspected adulteress, and we have the individual known as the Nazir who takes a Nazirite vow, and the offerings of the tribal heads. And this week's portion for the land of Israel, Behalotcha, begins with the illumination of the menorah and follows with more about the Levites and the second Passover, the divine signs of the Israelites' travel, the complainers about the manna, and the new prophets, and Miriam's quarantine. There's so much here, and each one of these concepts conveys monumental life lessons for us. And I believe that there are threads that connect all of them. But now, I'd like to turn to focus on only one of these vast ideas that's contained in 6 short verses in the portion of Naso. In Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 26, we read, Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, So shall you bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Hashem bless you and safeguard you. May Hashem illuminate his countenance for you and be gracious to you. May Hashem lift his countenance to you and give you peace. This is the famed priestly blessing, sometimes referred to as the Aaronic blessing. In the time of the Holy Temple, the priestly blessing is an integral part of the set daily service. It's recited every morning in the temple. All the male descendants of the first high priest, Aaron, the Kohanim, who serve in the Holy Temple, are specifically commanded by God to bless the people every single day. As we just read, so shall you bless the children of Israel. So it is the Aaronic blessing, as God authorized, actually, he empowered Aaron and his descendants to deliver it. And the very first time that this blessing was ever recited was by Aaron himself on the day of the dedication of the tabernacle, that first day of Nisan, Rosh Chodesh, that 8th day that we learned about in Leviticus chapter 9 and verse 22. Aaron raised his hands towards the people and blessed them. Now, although as of this moment, as of today, we still have not rebuilt the Holy Temple, this commandment is still in effect. It's still the responsibility of the descendants of Aaron, because the obligation of the Kohanim to deliver their daily blessing to the children of Israel in their synagogues, wherever they're to be found, is a commandment in perpetuity. In the land of Israel, this is actually part of the communal daily prayer service that takes place every day. It stands in for the temple service, while outside of Israel, in the diaspora, the blessing only takes place on the festivals and holidays. When the Holy Temple stood in Jerusalem, the ceremony of the priestly blessing took place with the Kohanim standing on the steps leading up to the Ulam, to the entrance of the sanctuary. And originally, when the blessing was recited in the temple, until the death of the high priest Shimon HaTzadik, Simon the Righteous, it was the ineffable name of Hashem that was uttered every time God's name was mentioned. Today in the synagogue, it's generally unacceptable for a person to stand with one's back facing the Holy Ark that contains the Torah scroll. Yet in the Holy Temple, the Kohanim would stand on the stairs facing the congregation, and thus their backs were towards the sanctuary. And this is the only instance in the temple service wherein the Kohanim would actually turn away from facing the sanctuary. And it's a great lesson, our sages say, that demonstrates Hashem's desire to show the importance of the community, of the congregation, to honor the congregation, prompting our sages to declare one should always show respect towards the community, for Hashem desired that the Kohanim should stand facing the people to deliver the priestly blessing, even though their backs are to the Shekhinah. So today, in the morning service in every synagogue where one or more Kohanim are present, the Kohanim stand together towards the end of the prayer leader's repetition of the Amidah, the Shemona Esrei prayer, and they stand in front of the ark that houses the Torah scroll, and they recite a blessing to God before reciting God's blessing to the people. Just as the case of every other divine commandment, a blessing is recited before performing the actual mitzvah. But the language of this blessing is very unusual. The Kohanim, before performing the priestly blessing, they recite, "Blessed are you, Hashem our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with the holiness of Aaron and commanded us to bless his people, Israel, with love." This blessing is remarkable because it underscores the idea that their commandment to bless the people is all about and dependent on love. If a particular Kohen does not love his people or is not loved by his people, he's a problematic person, he is disqualified. He's not to recite the priestly blessing because love is a central component in this equation, and if it's lacking, this man cannot be an agent to deliver God's blessing. It has to be given in love or not at all. So where is this love thing coming from, this requirement to love? How is it an integral prerequisite without which the commandment of the priestly blessing actually can't be fulfilled? So open up your heart. God designated the Kohanim to be the true spiritual leaders of Israel. They are the archetypes of love and kindness and compassion. They are known as men of chesed, kindness, and everything that they do in the Holy Temple is an aspect of making this rectification, this tikkun of kindness on a global scale. In chapter 1 of the Ethics of the Fathers, the great sage Hillel teaches, "Be of the students of Aaron, a lover of peace, a pursuer of peace, one who loves all people and draws them close to Torah." Why is it that a student, that is, one who wants to follow the path of Aaron, why should he be a lover of peace? The Midrash relates that Aaron was the perennial, tireless peacemaker between man and wife, between friends and neighbors, striving always to sow peace between all people. He would go to great lengths for the sake of peace. For example, amazing things the Midrash tells us, like when a couple got into an argument, he would go over to one of them privately and say, "I saw your husband. He's so sorry," and blames himself, and he loves you so much he wants to make up. And then he would go over to the wife and say the same thing. And in this manner, he would bring them back together. And where did this come from? What's his background? Now, one incident recorded by the Tanakh, which we might overlook or misread as a minor anecdote, actually stands out as very important. Remember back in Exodus when Moshe was first beginning to know Hashem after the burning bush, and he kept demurring that he wasn't up to the job. And right after he said, "Please, Hashem, send whoever you will send," in Exodus chapter 4 and verse 14, Hashem said to Moshe, "Isn't there Aaron, your brother, the Levite? I know that he will surely speak. And besides, behold, he's going out to meet you, and when he sees you, he will rejoice in his heart." What does this even mean? How does Hashem know what Aaron is feeling in his heart? And anyway, what's it got to do with anything? So picture this. Moshe just meets the Creator in a heretofore unparalleled brush with the divine that catapults him to a level of prophecy. Hashem assigns him the task of freeing his people from slavery, and Moshe becomes now a very important person, the most important person. And Hashem tells him, "Here comes your older brother, Aaron. He's coming to meet you, and when he sees you, he will not be the least bit envious of you. He will rejoice in his heart for you. He will only feel joy, because Aaron is the total tikkun of the brotherly enmity that we witnessed as a major theme left unresolved all throughout the book of Genesis, from Cain and Abel all the way to Joseph and his brothers. Aaron had no ego whatsoever, and as such, he can be a vessel for holding and conveying compassion for others. And God's covenant, his choice of Aaron, is eternal. As God declares in Exodus chapter 29, "And I will sanctify Aaron and his sons to minister to me." And in chapter 40, "And it shall be for them an appointment as priests forever, for all generations." Aaron's character is passed down in his priestly DNA, and thus the wording of the blessing, "Who has sanctified us with the holiness of Aaron and commanded us to bless his people Israel with love." So the Kohanim, who are constantly serving before Hashem's presence in the place of his choice, whose elevated consciousness is constantly attached to the divine presence, they are tasked with being the conduits to deliver Hashem's blessing. But one could easily ask, if Hashem is so keen on blessing us, why doesn't he just bless us, command his blessing, as he promises multiple times throughout the Tanakh? For example, as we find in Psalms 133, "For there Hashem commands his blessing, life forever." So why is it necessary for him to command the priest to personally deliver this blessing every day? So open up your heart in the deepest way ever, because it's all about our end of things, about preparing ourselves. These blessings are very powerful. Zohar informs us that as the Kohanim deliver the blessing, the gates of compassion and mercy are flung wide open over the whole world, and strict justice is transmuted into mercy. And all the blessings in the world emanate from these 6 short sentences. But the deepest secret taught by our sages is that the blessing received by each person is commensurate to what extent each person has prepared to receive them. It's about being found to be deserving and about how serious is our desire to be worthy of all the goodness he has in store for us. How much do we want his blessing and what that means? How much are we willing that our lives should be in line with his desire to bless us? But everything in life is about preparation and about being ready for Hashem's moment. Can you imagine? Hashem is all set, ready to pour his blessings out upon us. He's done his part. But if there's any blockage, it's from our end. And we always need to prepare ourselves to receive these blessings. The Kohanim are only a vessel, a very worthy vessel, but they have no power of their own. It's not their words that confer the blessing. Their mission here is summed up in verse 27, and they shall place my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. As the great Rabbi Hirsch explains, to place my name upon them means to make Israel the bearers of God's name in this world, to impress the name of God on every aspect of Israel's existence, to proclaim that Israel looks to God and to God alone for all blessings, for everything, for all gifts, all elevation, all protection, all peace, and through all the blessings he sends, Hashem's name is proclaimed in the world. Shalom. Thank you so much for watching and being part of Jerusalem Lights. May we all truly merit to receive Hashem's heavenly blessing. Shabbat Shalom.